This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Christmas will be here before you know it. And you know what would make a great stocking stuffer for everybody in your family? Sterling Soap. From bar soap to shave soap, beard balm to lip balm, aftershaves and lotions, Sterling Soap has something for everyone on your list. Check out their seasonal soaps that will complement the scents of your home this holiday season. And they're more than just soap. They also have a full line of coffee straight from the Sterling Roastery. Find their full line of products at sterlingsoapcompany.com.
Looking for the perfect gift for that basketball fan in your life? Well, I've got a book for you. It's called Basketball Now. Newly updated for 2025, it spotlights 50 of the NBA's top stars. Think fast breaks, clutch threes, and buzzer beaters. Captured in stunning photography with sharp, readable analysis. From rising stars to veteran icons, this book is a courtside pass to the game right now. Wrap up a slam dunk this holiday season and pick up your copy of Basketball Now today at your favorite bookseller. This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Yesterday's Sports on the Sports History Network. Today we'll have part 2 of the 1973 Atlanta Falcons. So when we left off last week, the Falcons had just defeated the Los Angeles Rams. And next up for the Falcons was the Philadelphia Eagles. The Falcons' defense struggled to contain receiver Harold Carmichael, who caught 6 passes for 105 yards and scored a touchdown. Falcons punt returner Ray Brown had an impactful game, gaining over 100 yards and providing the offense with favorable field position several times. With the score tied at 20 after 3 quarters, the Falcons scored 24 points in the fourth quarter. Their running game gained 170 yards. The final score was Atlanta 44, Philadelphia 27. The bad news was that the Falcons' top receiver, Ken Burrows, suffered a neck injury and was out for the rest of the season. The Falcons' record was 6-3, and they had become a legitimate playoff contender. However, some still doubted their talent. Only one of their 6 wins was against a team with a winning record, and many remembered the 3 games they lost by a total score of 75-15. On November 19th, the Falcons would get a chance to prove they were the real deal. The 9-0 Minnesota Vikings headed to Atlanta to face these rising Falcons on Monday Night Football. The Vikings took a 7-3 lead in the second quarter when Fran Tarkenton connected with John Gilliam for a 39-yard touchdown pass. But Atlanta answered with 2 touchdowns of their own and led 17-7 at halftime. They extended their lead to 20-7 in the third quarter and held on for a 20-14 victory. The Falcons' defense limited the Vikings' running game to 82 yards. Dave Hampton ran for 108 yards on 23 carries, while Bob Lee completed 11 of 23 passes for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. The win was especially satisfying for Lee and coach Norm Van Brocklin. Lee had played for the Vikings from 1969 to 1972, and Van Brocklin coached the Vikings from 1961 to 1966. The Falcons traveled to rainy Shea Stadium in New York for a Week 11 game against the Jets. Tom Garradine got the Falcons off to a good start scoring the first touchdown on a 39-yard reception. With Atlanta holding a 14-13 lead in the second quarter, Bob Lee connected with Lewis Neal for a 47-yard touchdown. The Jets responded in the third quarter with a touchdown, but the Falcons edged out a 28-20 victory. Without their top receiver, Ken Burrow, the Falcons leaned on their running game, gaining 147 yards on 44 carries. Defensively, the Falcons forced 6 turnovers. This was Atlanta's 7th consecutive win. With only 3 games remaining in the season, the Falcons were in position to secure a playoff spot as the wild card team. Their next game was against the 6-5 Buffalo Bills, which didn't go as expected. The Falcons' defense couldn't stop the Bills' strong running game, as Buffalo carried the ball 54 times for 239 yards. Offensively, Bob Lee was sacked 4 times, and Atlanta lost 3 fumbles. The final score was Buffalo 17, Atlanta 6. Although the loss hurt their chances of making the playoffs, it didn't eliminate them. The Falcons were tied with the Cowboys for the wild card spot with 2 games remaining. In a Week 12 game against the 3-8-1 Cardinals, cornerback Tom Hayes returned an interception 38 yards for a touchdown, giving the Falcons a 10-0 lead in the first quarter. From there, the Falcons collapsed and suddenly reverted to the team that got blown out in weeks 2 and 3. The Cardinals dominated the line of scrimmage, running the ball for 243 yards on 60 carries. The Atlanta offense was just as poor as their defense, gaining only 120 yards and fumbling 3 times. Bob Lee completed 3 of 16 passes for 27 yards, threw 2 interceptions, and was sacked 4 times. It's hard to understand how a team that had won 7 straight games could perform so poorly against a subpar team with a playoff spot at stake. The Cowboys defeated the Redskins, leaving both teams with a 9-4 record. The 8-5 Falcons still had a slim chance of making the playoffs if they won their last game and either the Cowboys or Redskins lost. The Falcons faced the Saints in the final game and jumped out to a 14-0 halftime lead. But they nearly blew it in the second half, hanging on to win 14-10. Dave Hampton ran for 84 yards, leaving him just 3 yards short of a 1,000-yard season. The Cowboys defeated the Cardinals, the same team that knocked the Falcons out of the playoffs, 30-3. The Redskins beat the Eagles. Kicker Nick Mickmeyer, offensive tackle George Coons, and defensive ends John Zook and Claude Humphrey made the Pro Bowl. Humphrey also earned All-Pro honors. While it was the Falcons' best season in their 8-year existence, putting a positive spin on such a disappointing ending isn't easy. The Falcons never recovered from their collapse. In 1974, Norm Van Brocklin was fired as the head coach after a 42-7 loss to the Dolphins in Week 8. Atlanta finished the season with a 3-11 record. In 1975 and 1976, They went 4-10. The Falcons finally reached the Super Bowl in 1998, but lost to the Denver Broncos. They made it back to the Super Bowl in 2016, but blew a 28-3 lead to the New England Patriots. That will conclude our podcast on the 1973 Atlanta Falcons. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and God bless.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.